Sorry, hang on. Start again. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to the new setup. I'm kind of living in a gym, but anyway, aside from feeling really confused about, you know, what is home and what is work and what is the gym, I feel really lucky to have this set up. Anyway, today I wanted to share with you things that I would do different if I was to start my fitness journey all over again. So basically I'm sharing you lessons that I've learned along the way, mistakes that I've made, and how I would go about it differently if I were starting again, knowing what I know now. So a few really good points to touch on. I'm not gonna waste any more time. We're gonna get right into it. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to see more fitness tips. And let's start. So first point is, if I were to start my fitness journey all over again, one thing I would do is stop worrying about getting bulky. I would work harder and lift heavier weights. So one thing when I first started, getting into weight training and whatnot, I didn't really know how hard I should be working. And I do actually have a video on that, 5 reasons why you're not seeing progress, which I'll link up there if you're interested in watching too. And I always associated heavier weights with larger muscles. So when I first started working out, I just wanted to feel fit. I wanted to feel stronger. I didn't care to really have big muscles necessarily, or that's what I thought. Anyway, so I would associate the heavier weights with larger muscles, which is so not even closely related. It's such a huge misconception in fitness, but I would stop worrying about bulking up and go for those heavier weights, because choosing the heavier weights is not what builds muscle necessarily. Heavier weights build strength. What builds muscle is the volume that you train with. So the weight in conjunction with your sets and reps and training frequency, it's a lot more than just the weight you choose. So I would not shy away from those heavier weights, because once I discovered that I can lift a heavier weight and get stronger, I just felt it's so empowering. You feel so much better when you can lift a heavier weight, and that is truly what builds real strength and tones the body, makes the body firmer. That is definitely one thing that I would worry less about, and I would go right for those heavier weights. Obviously sticking to a weight that you can lift with good form, that's always number one. I wouldn't shy away from it. I would definitely make that something that I work towards and go for. I don't think that people really understand just how hard it is to build muscle. It's not muscle that makes us bulky. I think something that needs to be just more known is that even men with their higher testosterone levels have such a hard time bulking and putting on muscle that it's a little bit unrealistic for us women to think that we'll just do it by accident. There's no way. What makes us bulky is size. If you were to put on a lot of muscle and have a substantial amount of fat surrounding the muscle, that is kind of what makes the figure bulky. I think it's super subjective too, what do you consider bulky? But I guess that the point that I'm trying to get across is that as a beginner and as someone who's just starting out, or even as an intermediate who's really getting into a routine, don't worry about getting bulky. You're not gonna get bulky unless you have a plan to get there and you're actively trying to. If you're not trying to, it's not gonna happen. Go for the heavy weights, try to build muscle, and you'll really realize how good that feels and how much stronger you actually get. Okay, the second thing that I would do if I was to start over again, which I did, but I kind of wish I did it sooner, is hire a coach or have a plan. Whether that's reaching out to somebody who has experience to write you a plan or hiring a coach. This was actually one of the best things that I had done in my whole fitness journey or ever. I just learned so much, and I wish I did it sooner, because I think I wasted so much time trying to figure things out on my own. Years of trial and error, and just years of not really knowing what I was doing. And it's funny because when I first hired my first coach, I was holy shit, I thought I knew what I was doing. I did a lot of research on my own. I thought I knew enough to get me to where I wanted to be. And then I hired my first coach, and the things that he taught me and the things that I learned about myself, I was why have I been missing out on this? So I just learned so much, and to me that was invaluable. So I wish I did that sooner in my journey. Hiring a coach, it's not always attainable for everybody, and I totally understand that. But even just reaching out to somebody who you trust for guidance, because having a plan and learning early on in the early stages is probably one of the best things you can do for yourself. Time is one of our most valuable assets. Don't waste it if you don't have to. The amount of time I could have saved myself by, learning these things earlier on in my journey, I definitely could have got a bit more of a jump start and closer to where I wanted to be earlier on. I would have saved myself years of this like trial and error and like frustration of not getting anywhere. Okay, my third point, and this is something that I know is easier said than done, but trust me when I say this, if I were starting over again, I would really put in the effort to not worry so much about food and all the rules that are associated around certain foods. I think the main thing is removing food labels. So good foods, bad foods, cheat meals, all of those labels that have us thinking like right or wrong, good or bad. I've been doing this for a while now, and I really come to realize that balance is where it's at. I know a lot of us do well with rules because it makes us feel like we know what we're doing when things are a little bit more black and white. When things are a little bit more gray, it's like, well, I don't know, like, am I doing this right? Like, it feels more like a guessing game maybe, but it's the most sustainable way to go about it, and it's the healthiest approach. So I've tracked my food for a few years now. Once I started doing Muay Thai, getting into competing, it's a weight category sport. So my coach had me weighing myself every single day and tracking my food, like weighing it, everything, tracking it. It was more of a learning tool than anything. Like, it really actually opened my eyes to like, wow, this is how my body responds to certain things like stress, sleep, different types of foods, like sodium, water, my cycle, like everything. I really learned what my body does and how it responds to things. And it really improved my relationship actually with food, because I think before I had all these labels. If I were to start again, I would probably put in the work to remove those labels as soon as possible. If that meant, tracking to see what happens with my body when I eat this donut, or when I have, popcorn or chips before bed, like high sodium. Like, how do I respond? It's really just eye-opening. To summarize that, what I've come to learn is that you're not going to lose progress, and you're not going to gain progress as quickly as you think you are. It's a slow process. It's all in what you do consistently. Having that balance is the best way to go about it, because it's the healthiest approach and the most sustainable. Okay, the fourth thing. This was like, I had to learn this the hard way, because I ended up getting injured by ignoring this and not being exposed to it early on enough. And that is paying attention to deep core training, or like proper core training. So what I mean by that is, if I were to start my journey again, I would put a huge importance on training my core, not abs, not like crunches, not like all these like high rep burnout, that sort of thing. That is not how you get a strong core. Okay? It might help some people, but it's not the right way to do it if you care about the real functionality of it. Like, if you actually want to get stronger in your core, you have to really slow things down, really learn how to engage those deep core muscles like pelvic floor and all of that. So I ended up injuring my back doing a deadlift, and I was lifting very lightweight, a total of 45 pounds I was deadlifting, without going into too much detail of like the back injury. What happened was, from years and years of not knowing how to properly engage my core, not properly hinge at the hip, bend over and pick things up. Like, we're talking years of just bending over improperly and not being able to engage my core in everyday movements, not just in the gym, like everyday stuff. And then that one tiny movement is what kind of set it off and what caused the injury. So if I were starting over again, I would 100% put more effort into core strength and not focus so much on like abs and exercises that get you abs, which exercises don't get you abs. But anyway, really focusing on the deep core strength and proper engagement of those muscles, because it's probably one of the most important things you can do for your fitness and just your well-being and health in everyday movement. So the last thing I want to talk about, what I would do if I was starting my fitness journey over again, is I wouldn't have as much guilt for taking rest days. And this is something that took me a long time to realize, up until I would say, I'm not gonna lie, probably COVID, because this is something I always knew I needed. I needed my rest days. When I was training intensely with Muay Thai and competition, I would train hard, like high intensity training 6 days a week. And that's different because I was training for a competition and, you know, most people aren't doing that. But when I was training like that, I felt that I needed that 1 day of rest. There was no guilt associated with that. But when my training tapered off to be more normal, as I would call it, what most people would be doing, training between, you know, 3 to 5 days a week, that's when I started to feel the guilt. So between competitions, when I would go home to visit family, when, you know, life would kind of get in the way of my training and I would have to take more than that 1 day off, that's when I felt the anxiety come up and the guilt and like, oh my God, like I'm gonna lose progress. I worked so hard to get as strong as I am now. I worked so hard for my speed. You know, I worked so hard for all of this stuff. Now I gotta take 2 days off. Now I gotta take 3 days off. I think being out of competition because of COVID and whatnot, I've really come to realize that these things come back quickly, especially if you're doing what you can just to kind of maintain, just to keep moving. Muscle memory is a real thing. Your body adapts quickly to things that it was once used to. So to hold guilt for, you know, taking time off training, whether that's a week, a month, 3 months, or just your 2 to 3 days of rest in the week, it's just a little bit unrealistic to think like, I'm gonna lose progress in this amount of time. If you're working out consistently to maintain or progress towards your goals, taking those rest days are important. One way that I try to look at it is rest days to some people might be like, okay, take a step back to take 2 steps forwards, but it's not taking a step back. It is a step forward. Your rest days are a step forward. They're necessary to recovery. If you're working out hard 1 week and you don't take the rest that your body needs to recover from those workouts, your workouts are not going to be even effective after. If you can't recover from a session, your next session is not going to be effective. To look at rest days as a step back, or you're slowing your progress, or you're regressing, is not true, even at all. You need that rest. So if I were to start all over again, I would really try to think of it differently in that sense that I said, it's not taking a step back, it is taking a step forward. So that way there's no guilt associated with it because it's something that you need to get to where you want to be. I hope that makes sense. Sometimes when I start talking about something, I ramble on a bit, but I really just want to get my point across and I want you to fully understand what I'm trying to say, because all of these things that I mentioned in this video are things that I really would do if I was starting over again. And it's something that I have to keep on top of myself to remind myself, even at this point in my journey. I hope that you learned a thing or two. I hope that you can apply these to your fitness journey as well. Some of these things will always be things that we're working on, but as long as we're mindful and putting in the effort, that's how we grow. So anyway, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you struggle most with in your fitness journey. I always appreciate when you leave me a comment. I will answer it. And yeah, I always love to hear from you guys. So thanks again for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos, and I will see you in the next one.